The Salesforce world, what exactly is it? It's considered a customer relationship management tool. I know that may be a little bit newer for some of our partners in the room, and maybe not had the opportunity to use a system such as Salesforce. Ideally, we know because we're not in the world of sales, we're more so in the world of education, that's where some of the confusion may lie. And I know for our instance of Salesforce, that was one of the barriers we had to overcome. Now, why is it important that we look at tools like Salesforce? The scenarios that we talked about just a few moments ago, think about the application that you have through your enrollment management pipelines. Think about where you want to get the student from point A to point B. How do you want them to get there? Well, that's where a customer relationship management tool such as Salesforce can really come into play. And over the next few slides, I would like to tell you just how it can help you help your students. Because at the end of the day, we know that getting our students in the door is point A, getting the students to successfully persist and retain is point B, getting them to completion and transfer is point C. Well, within Dallas College, you may be in the scenario we were about 6 years ago when we started looking at what can Salesforce really do for us. Given that we were one of the first to really pilot this journey with Dr. Ben and his work group, we were in a scenario where we were using different platforms for email and or texting. We were looking at how do we communicate with our students in bulk, how are we communicating our students one by one individually. Like many of you, we probably use some spreadsheets. We were using different tools. We were using Excel, we were using Access, we were using Google Sheets. We were looking at all these different student data points. And then the next thing were the survey platforms. Of course, we want to know where our students really are, how can we help them out, so sometimes we're sending surveys to various platforms. And then lastly, of course, our student information systems that we were using at the time. That seems like a lot of stuff up there. Well, whenever the opportunity came up for us to go forward with the Dallas County Promise, the first thing that we looked at was a CRM technology tool. And I know we're kind of missing some letters up there, but that should say CRM technology. We had a really good opportunity to collaborate with Mark Flanagan, who's in the room today, to really kind of iron out what do we want that entry pipeline to look like for our Dallas County Promise students. Now, once we kind of got the ball rolling and we got through a couple of years of successful use of the CRM platform Salesforce, we started looking at assessing our institutional needs to see if this is going to be something that could be feasible for us. How do we get it to work for us? And then, of course, you have evaluating options. We wanted to make sure that we knew what we were going to get into once we began to expand those opportunities built off the original Salesforce platform instance from Dallas County Promise. The next phase, I know I'm missing a word up there, but that does say buy and build. Of course, that's going to be your point to where you can start working out different contracts with a company like Salesforce to figure out what exactly do you want the product to do, how do you want to get it to progress, and how do you want to get it to where you want to define your student journey or your enrollment pipeline. Or if you're looking at the whole thing, how do you go from prospect to alumni? The next part really was about learning the technology. Now, I know Dr. Juarez did mention that I'm currently in the Ranger rank in Salesforce, so what that really means is I've taken a lot of preparation courses to get ready to be a system administrator, so that's how we got to point A to point B to where we have a successful Salesforce rollout within Dallas College. Now you may be asking yourself, well, what kind of metrics are you pulling now that you've transitioned from your promised Salesforce to your Dallas College Salesforce instance? This is currently one of our dashboards that we're using for the fall 2022 academic year campaign. So you can see here at the very, very top right, there's a number that has 29772. What that is, that's telling us exactly in real time how many of our students have applied. They're somewhere in the application process, but they just simply have not heard of students. It seems like it's a lot to soak in, and it takes a little bit of legwork to get there. So I think it's just a good idea to briefly kind of talk about some keys to success. The first one really is, it's a team effort. It's not really just about recruitment. It's not really just about enrollment management. It's not about IT. It takes a village, right, to be able to bring a student up. In the same way, whenever you go in to build your Salesforce environments or your CRM environments, you want to make sure that you have a really good network of team members to be able to create work groups so that way you can identify pull colleagues from different areas to be able to get them to get the data that you need. At the end of the day, I can't go out there, give a report, if marketing is not looking to send out a communication plan, right? Or if we're getting IT to push something in, maybe marketing doesn't see it, but we see it, we need to find out why. So just having constant work groups definitely can help out your environment. Planning and assessing. So you want to make sure that whatever your strategic enrollment plan is, figure out how the best possible method to translate it into your Salesforce environment. The Salesforce environment typically is basically, think of it like a box of Legos. I know Dr. Juarez has heard me use this analogy before, but it really is like a box of Legos that you can buy your kids. You know, the ones that just have like 500 pieces and you can kind of build whatever. That's kind of the way Salesforce is. So if you can plan and assess to figure out what you want to do on the platform, you'll be miles ahead, so that way when the time comes to get your launch live and running, you're going to be up and running and no problem. You want to include people who can speak on all sides. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll just use myself for an example. I don't have a problem talking to the enrollment management or student success leadership at Dallas College, jump to the next meeting, talk in IT terms with IT. After talking with IT in their meeting, I don't have a problem jumping to a third meeting, because we know we're typing in meetings sometimes, right? This meeting is with marketing. So how do I know to talk about the enrollment funnel, our strategic enrollment plan? How do I know how to talk about SQL feeds, data feeds? Why does this formula work correctly? Turn around, jump over here. Well, are we pushing this campaign far enough? What can we do to this campaign to make it a little bit more adaptable for our students? You may not realize it, but there probably are people in your institution that can easily adapt to all environments. So if you can start identifying those, they're going to be the ones that can go in there, push your environment to another level, and get you acquainted with the platforms such as Salesforce. The next piece of key to success I want to go out there and advertise is really push the envelope. Whenever I presented that section about the registration ready levels, or how close to a completed application level by date, that's not something that comes native in Salesforce. That's not something that comes native with the education architecture within Salesforce. That is something I had to go out there and build, and I had to go in there and figure out how to turn on that history tracking so that way we could have that opportunity to see in real time when our students are becoming registration ready. The last key to success is really think about that North Star vision. Where do you want it to go? At Dallas College, and Dr. Juarez has heard me before talk about this, as well as our leadership, I want to get to a point where our platform can really push from prospect to alumni and even beyond that. I want to be able to create an environment that says, this student was part of our Promise program in 2022, they graduated in 2024, they transferred to UTA, they graduated there in 26, they come back to us in 2032, saying, I want to create opportunities for our students with some internships. Guess what? I want that environment to be able to go back to 2022 when a student walked in the door, when they met with that college coach. Whoever made that difference for that student, I want them to realize that they can come back, and regardless of whoever's there, that they can still go through and they can still feel as if they are welcome. Because at the end of the day, that's how you keep your students in. That's how they push it to that next level, so that way whenever they start getting kids and they start going to college, they're going to be reminded of those opportunities. And it's all because of this back-end stuff we're building out in our Salesforce environment.